Hi everyone, we are here with Shridhar Galgali today and we'll be discussing the topic design thinking. Hi Shridhar, thanks for joining us. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi Anika. Thanks for having me. Uh, so, uh, Hi guys, I'm Shridhar Galgali. I have 12 years of design engineering experience, and I have worked with wide variety of off-road vehicles in past 12 years, and the major focus has been on the accessory part of the off-road vehicles. So, off-road vehicles can be all-terrain vehicles. It can be UTVs, it can be snowmobiles, right? Even off-road vehicles like Jeep, JL, Jeep GT. Those are the different versions of Jeep vehicles. So I have a lot of experience working with the accessories of them.
Thank you.
So you must have heard about a company called Coursera, and it's an American company founded by Stanford University company computer science professors. That offers massive online course contents, specializations, degrees, and according to their data, in past 2 years, design thinking is one of the trending skills, and especially in automotive sector, media and entertainment sector. As you can see in this slide, along with technology and data science and the business skills, so you'll find design thinking in the business section, right? So when a university like Stanford does the study and design thinking shows up as a part of their study, so it is worth taking a look at. It's a very credible information. It's more than 70 to 80 pages report. So if you are interested, I would say go knock yourself out and take a look at it. I'll share with Anika after the meeting. But that is why I started digging deep on how design thinking affects the creative thinking process, how it affects creating an innovative product. Because I am personally involved with creating products or accessories for the end user directly. So it is like a business to consumer company that I work. So it helps me a lot, while looking or while designing a product. It helps me a lot to think from this perspective. And I'll be sharing some frameworks with you today, which will give you a better idea of what we are talking about. I'll go to the next slide. Okay, so now let's start with the basic definition of design thinking, right? This definition is coming from one of the most credible people in the design thinking fraternity, Tim Brown. He's the executive chairman of IDEO. It is a global design company based out of San Francisco, California, and they have been a part of many innovative products. The design of like one of the first Apple mouse uh, for the company. So they were involved in that. So they have a history of being a part of hugely successful products. So the definition goes like this. So it's a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, possibility of technology, and requirement of business success. So it is this definition is kind of controversial also in the design group, because it says that it's just about thinking, but it is a complete process. It's a complete creative process. It gives the ability for a designer or any person who is working to make a product very human centered. That it provides a set of tools and processes for them. So yeah, so that's why we can say that it's especially an effective tool if your end goal is going to be an innovation for any sector. Okay, we'll go next. Okay, so this is one of the first frameworks that I learned when I started reading more about design thinking. So the first step is like what is, right? So successful innovation begins with finding out what is going on today, understanding of the current reality. So as everybody know, as we know that we are going through a global pandemic right now. So COVID-19 is one of the huge problems, right? So we can say that it is like, what is the problem, right? So you have to complete that what is the first question. Then, so in this stage, basically the problem is defined and what are we going to solve. Then the next step is what if, right? So in this step, we explore the various ideas and solutions. There are various tools and techniques involved here, like visualization, brainstorming. Um, so think of it like if you have looked at how childrens play with the Lego blocks, right? So we put block on top of each other, and then in the end we try to come to a conclusion of how the overall shape looks like. So think a problem like it's a Lego block. Divide it into a very small fragments, and then try to explore the concepts of the problem at this stage. Next is what wows. So concepts generated in the earlier stages, that is what is and what if, they should match with the resources we have on hand. The problem should be realistic, right? If, like, for example, if I want to solve a global hunger, then I need to know that what are my limitations, and how I have to work with various people in the government, just for example. Or if you are making a simple stylus pen, like these days we know all the mobile phones and the tablets, we have a special pen in place. So understand the problem and what wows. So make some hard choices to pursue only those which are value adding, right? Then the final step in this framework is what works. So this is a stage where you test it out. So make a prototype. It can be a very small, scaled down version of what the actual product looks like, and you have to make sure that this prototype has most of the features that you are envisioning in the final product, and then you hand it over to your potential customers or a part of your team who will work on it. And this is highly iterative. The final stage in every framework that we will discuss today is going to be highly iterative, because if something is not working at this stage, you have to go back to what if, what wows, and define the problem statement, come up with more tools and techniques, and trying to figure out what is the best possible for the user, because it has to be feasible, it has to be very inexpensive too, from the point of view of a customer, because the whole idea is trying to make it a human centered. A product is not going to be useful if it costs you millions of dollars, right? We'll go next. Because we need to have multiple arrows in our quiver, right? So we need more than one frameworks that works in today's world. So that's why this is another framework which comes from a different organization. So it says that design thinking is a methodology. Using it, we can address a wide variety of personal, social, and business challenges in creative new ways. So it is finding the sweet spot of feasibility, viability, and desirability. Now, I'll just give an example, right? Before the mass production of the cars was invented, if somebody would have asked Henry Ford, if Henry Ford would have gone and did a survey of what people wanted, everybody would have said they wanted a faster horse. But that's not what the market was looking for, right? So market was looking for something like an automobile. So that's why you need to understand what customer needs, and not just everybody is thinking. So we'll go through. So in this framework, we have 6 steps. So first is framing a question, right? So in this step, you want to inspire your team to think about what your customers really want, because those are the end people for whom you are designing your product, and what they actually need. So that's why try to frame a question on is the first step. In the other framework which we discussed, it was called what if. So this is very similar to that. And the second is gather inspiration. So go out into the world and seek inspiration by observing and discovering what people really need, and that's where you will generate the ideas. In the third step, is actually creating the idea. So this involves a lot of brainstorming, using the inspiration that you have gathered in the earlier step. Push past the obvious to come up with the fresh solutions to the problem. So that's very tools and techniques involving step. And after that, you have to make the ideas tangible. You will get lots of ideas, but many of it, like I would say more than 90% of it won't be useful to you, because either it may not be feasible economically, or from the design point of view, it may not be possible to do that. So that's why choose only those ideas for which are going to work in the real world. Then the next step is, you test it again, right? This is the prototype stage that I talked about earlier. And do a scaled down version of the model, test it out with the potential customers or within your team. Yeah, do like that. And finally is the share the story. So once you are done testing the prototypes, then arrive at the right solution. Share the story to introduce it to your colleagues first, and next can be your clients, and of course the customers are the final one. And this is going to be very iterative, because once you share something with the outside world, then it's very necessary that you get feedback from them in order to do the continuous improvement in your process as well as the product. The next one. Okay, so now this is the third framework, third and the last framework that I'm going to discuss with you guys today. It comes from a global company called Interaction Design Foundation. This is a company based in Europe. And again, they are also trying to arrive at the same solution by using a little different set of steps here. So the core philosophy of design thinking is to empathize with your end customers. And I'm going to share some excellent examples with you today, that how we are going to achieve that. But that's the understanding of the problem that you are trying to solve. So empathy is very crucial to human-centered approach. If you make a product which the end customer, it's not helping them in their day-to-day lives, then it's of going to be no use to them. So design thinking and empathy, this will allow design thinkers to set aside their own assumptions. Because whenever I start designing something, I have to think it from the perspective of the customer, because that's where you empathize with your end user. Next is define the problem. Again, very self-explanatory, where you just define the problem statement, right? Then next is the ideate. So once you have a solid background of empathize and define, then you go for the ideation. So this is the technique. There is one of the technique here called like worst possible idea. So if you focus on not doing the wrong things, then you will also come to one of the right working ideas. So I can give you an example here, right? So one of the famous investors called Charlie Munger. So one of his quote is, "If I know where I am going to die, I'll make sure that I will never go there." Right? So always invert. So try to think how you can go wrong. So and start eliminating those ideas from your list. So that will help you to arrive at a very feasible and a desirable solution for your end customer, right? And the next is prototype. So in prototype again, as I said earlier, it has to be very inexpensive, a scaled down version that you want to test it out with your customers. And finally is the testing. So highly iterative again. So if something is not working at this stage, I would say go back to defining the problem and again arrive at a very possible solution. Next. Okay. So this is the second example, and this is very hard working example actually. So there study in Nepal, which is a neighboring country to India, and they realize that no matter how good of a design if you make, it would never help these babies uh, um, if they stayed just in the hospital, because in many of the rural Indias, babies are still born in their homes. So to save the maximum number of lives, their design would have to function in a rural environment. It would have to work, so most important, it would have to work without electricity. It would have to be transportable, very intuitive, sanitizable, that's from the health standpoint, and culturally appropriate. Um, and perhaps the most important, it has to be cheap, right? So this design that I'm going to show, so there you go. So it looked like a sleeping bag, and it's wrapped around a baby which is born prematurely, and there's a pouch of a material called face change material. So this material you must have seen in your everyday lives. We buy it from, it's very inexpensive. We buy it, and if some part of a body like a neck or hand is paining, we'll just put it on top of it, and we press a button. So the whole liquid will turn it into, it will change the phase, and it will start turning hot. So this kept the baby's temperature very warm after it was born, right? So, and just maintained the temperature for up to 4 hours. And after a baby is born, until the baby receives the complete care, it's very necessary to maintain the temperature, because if you consider, then when a baby is out of womb after it's born, then the outside temperature feels like freezing cold for the baby. So that's why this sleeping bag or embrace warmer, that what the students called it from Stanford. So it's very, it followed all the categories of, like sanitizable, transportable, culturally appropriate, and it was very cheap. And compare the price point, right? Compared to a 20,000 incubator, it was only $25. So I'm not saying that it will replace an incubator, but at least for the first few hours after a baby is born, it does the most important function of keeping the baby warm. So do check this example out on the net, and see for yourself that it's being used right now, and people are making donations just to make sure that these embrace warmers reach to all the parts of a developing country. Okay, so next example is going to be very
Indeed, that was a very good example, Sridhar. And I am also moved seeing it, that example. Thank you for sharing it.
right, sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the best examples that I have, because something that saves lives by solving a very basic problem. So it has got to be very innovative, and they have received numerous awards for that too from various governments. So yeah.
Sure, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
So sure, thanks. So the next example is, it's very funny. I mean, it's like, if you are like me, then I have traveled from USA to India multiple times in an economy seat, right? Because that's the most affordable one. So sitting close to 20 hours in a seat, and how fun it is, right? So that's why SKYCOUCH was one of the concepts created by New Zealand Airlines, and they worked with a design thinking group. So when I read more about it, I came to know that uh, the New Zealand Airlines, they worked with these design thinking people, and they came up with a very simple idea, right? So the picture which you see here, right? A lady is comfortably sleeping. A mother is sleeping very comfortably with a child, and this is not possible in a normal just economy seat. And like the length of this seat is typically like 5 feet, 5 feet 6 inches or something like that. So I'm not saying it will replace the first class seat or a business class seat, but just providing a little more comfort to somebody like the one you see in the picture, or an elderly patient who cannot sit for 15 hours or 20 hours. No, this was a very nice innovative idea, and it would convert a row of three seats into a couch kind of setup. So it was very cost effective way. um, so yeah, so I would say that like we moved from embrace warmer, it is like life-saving product to something at 35,000 feet above ground, right? So design thinking can be applied anywhere. So that's why there are no limitations. And this particular flight was from Auckland in New Zealand to Houston. So it was very, very long haul flight from there. So I would say it's a cost-effective way to get more space on a long flight.
Yeah, I'm sure if it was there for me, it would have been really good.
Right, right. And as far as I know, no other airline is offering that right now. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, there are also many controversies behind that because you will not get enough privacy here for sure.
Yeah.
The ticket prices for these is a little bit higher than economy because you are trying to, of course, accommodate less number of people in more number of seats. So you might be looked at with a wrong eye if you are sleeping comfortably, and there's a guy who is just by your side who is not comfortable on the same flight. So there is a little controversies about that, but still, uh, anything that helps the end users. That is why it's said, right? It's a human-centered approach. So yeah. All right, we'll go to our next example now. Now, everybody knows about McDonald's, right? It's in most of the countries. So they have mastered the design of service thinking. Uh, they have built a very sophisticated prototyping facility in their headquarters outside Chicago. If you have been to Chicago, then in the North Loop area, I think they have this restaurant, and where they put design thinking, the service design thinking uh, to daily use, right? So first thing what they will try to do is the menu. That's how they satisfy the customer. So in your typical McDonald's, you will, like in America, in a typical McDonald's, you will see just the menu surrounded by just the American food items. But in this particular store, they try to provide a global menu, right? You will have something from Brazil, you will have something from UK, from Ireland, their best possible recipes and food you will get there. So they use this as a prototyping facility, one of the important part of design thinking approach, and then they will start applying that prototyping to all the other restaurants in the world, or maybe in United States. Now some examples why this stands out. So if you have been to different fast food service restaurants like say Wendy's, Taco Bell, or Taco John's, right? So you will realize that not everybody has the same kind of service that they provide. So touch screen kiosk. So now it's fairly visible at many places, but McDonald's was one of the first restaurant to start that. That you do not even need to go to the counter, or by the time you go to the counter, your food would be ready, right? It's a very simple thing, but imagine you if you have to stay in line for 20 minutes or 30 minutes just to get your food. That is pretty frustrating from customer standpoint. So they solve this problem of less time. They're trying to more revenue per store. So it has worked very well with them. Digital menu boards, it's very common nowadays, but when it started in early 2010s, it was not very common at that time. App-based or ordering, right? Now everybody is on, it's definitely due to the COVID pandemic, everybody is doing it online, but McDonald's was one of the first service restaurants to do that. Curbside delivery again is very famous these days, but McDonald's have mastered it. And one interesting thing here, right? When McDonald's, with their previous CEO, their breakfast item was just available in the morning. Just by changing it from breakfast provided in the morning to all day breakfast, their revenue really jumped up. They made very high profits for that. So because customer wants to eat whatever he wants, right? It's okay if I want to eat egg McMuffin 6 in the evening or 10 at night. So if it is available to me, I'm very happy with that. So that's why they changed their rules according to the customer's needs, and it worked very well for them. So and other companies are of course copying. then now. And the last was, it's very small but very innovative, right? When you're going and sitting in a McDonald restaurant and you suddenly realize that your phone does not have a charge, then they started providing this wireless charging facilities on the table itself. So while I'm having my lunch, dinner, or breakfast, then no, I'll just put my phone on the wireless charging portion of the table. The phone is charging, and I'm having my food. So very simple thing, but understand it from customer standpoint, the delight that he's getting along with the food, and of course the phone charge, because nobody lives without phone these days. So yeah, go. I would encourage you to study more about how McDonald is innovating their functions and how they are applying service design thinking, and you will know for sure why it is so successful in the world today. Okay. One of the last examples that I want to share with you today is, this MRI machines. So, um, Dr. Doug Dietz is a industrial designer. I looked at his profile on LinkedIn a few days back, and it's like innovation architect. So, who designs MRI machines for GE Healthcare? He was their former employee, but when he created this MRI machine, it was not done keeping in mind the children, the pediatric patients. So when he saw a very young girl who was walking towards an MRI machine, crying, it's a very, very dim lit room. And it's already scary for her that she has to go through the scanning. And apart from that, if you provide that setup where it's even more problematic to understand what is going on. So most of the patients had to be sedated. Most of those pediatric patients had to be sedated just to make sure that doctors would get a good scan of the children. So when he realized that even though the device was functioning perfectly, but it was very problematic for these pediatric patients. So they went back. The GE healthcare guys, they worked with these design thinking schools, and they came up with an idea to make it as easy as possible, right? The environment, by putting cartoon pictures on the MRI machine, and the bed which actually takes the patients inside the rotating machine. They try to make it very interesting for children so that they are not scared of it, right? So I think making it just a kid friendly, keeping all other functions same, they solved the problem of not not trying to sedate these young people, and achieve the best possible service output there. So as you can see, it's very, very human centered again, right? So this was one of the best examples I also came across while reading about design thinking. The next slide, which is about the resources. So how have I arrived uh, at my thinking right now? So when I started learning more about design thinking, the first thing which I did was, used the power of social media. So if you go on a LinkedIn and if you talk to like-minded people who can guide you about making your domain more interesting. I just popped up a question. There are various design thinking groups on LinkedIn. So I just asked them question that, guys, how I want to learn more about this. So provide me some links or resources or courses. These days, many online courses are available. So people who are like very rich in their understanding of this field, they started sending me their comments. They started sending me the names of books, articles, websites. Some of the books were like more than 50 years old or 60-year old. So I was really fascinated by the feedback I got from them. So I would encourage you to do the same. If you are interested in this, definitely go through the books that I have shown here. So Tim Brown, he's one of the co-founder of IDEO. So his design thinking book will really get you started. Then there are also others that you can see here. Two of the websites The frameworks that I have discussed with you earlier, the IDEO framework, go to their website. They have number of articles and many examples on how they have solved this problem by working with various customers. And then there is also Interaction Design Foundation. So again, knock yourself out, and it will be really helpful about that. And I think so. Last but not the least is uh, to maximize the creativity of your team. I mean, keep in mind the following principles, right? Whenever you form a team, because this is not a single person project, you have to talk with multiple people. You have to be very careful who you select in your team in order to solve this problem. So know each other's strength in the team. And I have been very lucky that I have been surrounded by people in my organization who are very supportive and who wants to solve the problem from the customer point of view, the human-centered approach that I talked earlier. No, leverage diversity. If you have people coming from background which is maybe not engineering, they will provide a different perspective to you, right? The example that I shared with the MRI scanner earlier, right? You can be the best industrial designer, but uh, if you don't facilitate children in doing their scans, then it's of going to be very less use. Then put the we always say that the word working relationship, right? But all we do is work. There is no relationship. So that's why get that relationship back in the working relationship. And experience this goes this is not something that we can learn within a year or two. So especially for students, right, who want to explore this domain, then definitely get a lot of experience, talk to more number of people, what problems they are facing, and I think last but not the least is have fun. And it will definitely help you to achieve the innovative process and get you a very good idea and a product. Yeah, so I think this should be my last slide now. So I'll just close it out by saying that good design thinkers observe, good designers, industrial designers, they observe, but great design thinkers, they will observe the ordinary in the product and they will solve it. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's it from my side, Anika.
Sridhar, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Why you learned? What was the reason you wanted to learn about design thinking?
Yeah, so absolutely. Now, I have, uh, as I said earlier, right? I have worked with accessories a lot in last 12 years. Now, I got the opportunity to visit one of the accessories, aftermarket accessories design-based show in Las Vegas. It is held every year, where all the automotive component manufacturers, they will come not only from America but also outside the America, because they want to provide these best solutions to the customers and gain their market share. So while doing that, you see that. So take one of the examples of a bumper. So there's a bumper for a Jeep, or a bumper for the all-terrain vehicles that multiple companies come with. But there is a reason why there will be one company which will be most sought after. These company will be selling their accessories a lot as compared to another company. There is a reason behind it. They're trying, so not only the function, but the usability. The way they design these products, these accessories product, and the way they are useful to customers. So that got me thinking. I can give you one another example. So say you are a lot into camping. So there are many companies which we will sell product where you can use your vehicle, and a camp based setup can be done on top of the vehicle itself, right? So imagine you are in the middle of a jungle. There are very animals which can get wild at night, right? So you don't want to be come in the way of them. So these products are designed in such a way that they are very useful for the customers. So so at the end, it's a human centered approach once more. So once I started thinking about that, before making a product, just make sure, think from customer standpoint, whether it is really helpful for him or is he just buying just for the sake of buying for the function. So I think the various accessories that I have worked with, that I have designed along with my team, those have been really helpful from the standpoint of not only the desirability, usability, and feasibility. So that's why I would say it got me thinking about this domain.
Makes sense. So I think I have no questions right now. So thank you so much, Sridhar, for taking out time and talking us about this such a very interesting topic. And I hope we'll be having more sessions on this, and we can learn more from you. So
Sure, sure. Thank you for having me. Yeah, that would be great. Yep.
yeah, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.